guys, welcome to Cult Film Review, the podcast where we explore the films you love, but no one else gets, and see if they still hold up. This week, we are talking about Assault on Precinct 13, so let's just start the show.
Your Hollywood system stole our sex and co-opted our violence, so there's nothing left for our kinds of movies.
I did not hit her. It's not true.
Klopex? Klopex. Klopex.
Up yours, baby.
Me and Bubba, my little brother, listen to you every night.
Where in the hell are we?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
All right, so we are here to talk about Assault on Precinct 13. I am your host, Cody Everett. With me, as always, I got Kyle Smith, I got Chris Willenbrecht, and I got Michael Salucio. But what I want to do before we get into this is I want to say, if you're downloading our show, I appreciate it, number one. But just do one quick, simple, easy thing. It's going to make your life simpler. You're not going to have to go look for the show every Thursday. Just hit subscribe. Do it right now. And then you don't have to worry about it. It just automatically shows up for free on your iTunes feed,
right now.
Google Play, whatever. It downloads automatically. You don't have to worry about it.
We're on Google Play now.
We're on Google Play now.
So do it right now. We're watching
it out.
We're waiting right now.
Yeah, we'll wait.
We'll wait for you guys.
All right, that's enough time.
We got one. We got one. I saw it.
That was an ample amount of time. So we're talking about Assault on Precinct 13. This is Kyle's pick.
Yes, it is.
Kyle, this movie came out when? 1976?
1976.
What was it, 100K? Was the
100K
for the budget?
It's cheap.
Dude, that's
an incredibly cheap movie.
That's incredibly cheap.
Can we just talk about that?
What they got out of this?
Good for
we
him.
can get to that.
We can get to that real quick.
We will.
I want to
Good.
know what this movie's about and then why you picked it, Kyle.
Oh, you want me to read the premise?
I want you to tell me the premise. You know, if you want to read it from somewhere, go ahead.
I'm going to read. I'm going to give you the back of the box. The back of the box premise.
Okay.
Cops, secretaries, and prisoners stuck in a soon-to-be shuttered L.A. police station fight off a horde of murderous gang members in director John Carpenter's homage to Howard Hawks' film Rio Bravo.
Why'd you pick this John Carpenter film?
Well, it's in line with, I've been the one picking all of John Carpenter's. Eventually, we're going to do every single one of them, and I feel like I'm the one who's picking them all. But I wanted to do this one because I haven't seen this film in quite a while. I haven't seen it nearly as much as I've seen like his other films from like later in the 80s and like during that kind of heyday of his work. So I wanted to revisit it, and I thought it was really important also to just take a look at like, his first major film and what he did in this film and how it established him as a director, writer, fucking editor, a musician, all that shit. So I thought that'd be fun.
So if you're not familiar with John Carpenter's work, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
First of all, number one, get on that. Call him JC here. It's my personal Jesus. He's done Halloween, The Fog, Christine, They Live, Big Trouble in Little China, and probably his best work, Ghost of Mars.
Not Village of the Damned.
No.
They didn't make the cut.
Didn't make the cut.
What? Yeah, let's not talk about The Thing.
Or The Thing.
Did he even do that film? I don't even know if he did that film.
What is that? I haven't even heard of that.
I've never
Anyways,
heard of
he's
it.
done pretty much all your favorite movies. So if you don't know. So wasn't this supposed to be, I read somewhere this was supposed to be an exploitation film, but it's based off a Western?
Yeah, it's based off of the movie Rio Bravo, which stars John Wayne, where basically John Wayne's a sheriff, and he has a prisoner, and this prisoner's brother says he's going to do anything he possibly can to break him out, and then John Wayne says, "Fuck you, you're not getting your brother," and then basically it's like a giant standoff and a siege, basically. So John Carpenter's a huge fan of that movie. He's a huge fan of like also Night of the Living Dead, so there's a lot of those elements in it. But yeah,
Especially the second half of the film.
oh yeah,
There's definitely that's when it turns into,
Night of the Living Dead?
yeah, but Night of the Living Dead 1976,
Yeah.
where it's more, I think, focused on the action.
so Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, it's more focused on the action rather than the character development. And definitely the second half of the film, I feel like the character development.
I
is
agree
thrown
with
out
you
the window.
100% on that. You don't think the characters were developed enough up to that point?
Yeah, but
you don't think the first half of the film he spent the time kind of establishing them, who they were?
Yeah, but then it goes straight into this onslaught.
Well, yeah, that's how a movie progresses.
You know what this movie kind of reminds me of a little bit is a tower defense game.
Ghost of Mars.
Yes. No, you know when you play on your iPhone,
The movie
it's
Rio
like,
Bravo, maybe.
but no, it is. But except except this one has, like, for instance, the gang doesn't really, they're not given any kind of,
No, they're not humanized in any way.
yeah, in any way.
No.
They're just and there seems to be an infinite amount of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, it's just 4 at first.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden it turns into like 30,
Hordes.
and then always 30.
Yeah.
It's always 30 people
Yeah.
attacking at any
There's-
given time.
There's another movie that does this in his work to relate it back to how
The
does
Ghost
this
of
relate
Mars?
to his other work.
Halloween.
No, Ghost of Mars.
Okay.
No, for real. Go.
I
no,
know, I know,
I'm just
I know,
joking.
I
We're
know.
joking. We're joking.
We're laughing just because it's Ghost of Mars.
But it did have a here one. I will say not to go off the joke. It does have a Halloween feel because it is like an ever present, like unstoppable force
Oh.
that is always kind of
You mean
attacking.
a Halloween 3 feel?
It has a
Because this
Halloween
movie feels like Halloween 3.
H2O feel.
Well,
no.
no, I see where you're coming from
Yeah.
because I mean that's the whole that's kind of like the whole idea of Michael Myers is he's just this kind of this entity this way he doesn't have a face. He's just the shape. He's just this unstoppable thing. And yeah, that's exactly what's happening in this film. And even John Carpenter has said that like these two films like just kind of he was really in his early years he was really obsessed with the idea of not knowing or really needing to know why they're doing this because he thought that was far more terrifying than I mean as he goes on obviously his films get more complex and he starts I think he specifically said when you get into the Hollywood system they're not as excited about the idea of not knowing why somebody's doing something.
They want to know everything.
They want to know every single
Yeah.
facet, so that's why these two films have that kind of share that feel, that tone.
Where do you think this falls in line as far as his film, I guess, legacy, or how it contributed to maybe his film legacy?
I personally think it set everything up. I mean, this was one of his earliest films other than Dark Star, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, so much of what's in Assault on Precinct 13, you will find exact similarities or almost exact like similarities in his catalog from then on, I think.
Yeah.
The way it's shot, the way it's lit, the mood he creates, the suspense, the type of suspense that he creates, it all carries on. Like, even in this film, I was really captured by the suspenseful moments, and one of them particularly was they do a couple shots where the guy's got his finger on the trigger and they're driving by in the car. The gang's driving by in the car, and they're aiming at people just on the side of the road, and you see his finger getting closer and closer to squeezing the trigger, but he never actually does. And just that whole buildup was intense for such a simple idea.
They do a lot of that too.
Yeah, I feel
They
like
do that with what's his name? Tony. What's Wells? Wells is doing that when he's holding the gun to the girl.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And he's like, he has just for a second. You see the hammer go back a little bit.
You see it kind of. You see
And
the
then it kind of
chamber.
goes back, and then she's just like, it's not even fucking loaded.
Yeah.
I was already shot once today.
Well,
I don't plan on getting
Is he
shot
not
again.
known as the master of suspense? Isn't that his
I mean, yeah,
title?
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and
Master Horror,
goddamn, do you see it in this film? That's one thing that I really appreciate about this film is the ability to build suspense in an action film, essentially.
I like that. I like that. Going back to that scene where he spends so much time building the suspense when the gang's driving around and like with his finger on the trigger and like you're looking through the scope at all the people he's aiming the gun at, and then when he finally does pull the trigger, it's a little girl, and it's almost like he doesn't even think about it. He doesn't even look. He just aims his sight and crack, 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 done. And there's like no suspense. It just happens.
That was super shocking.
It was.
That
It was
whole
done
scene
well.
was. I mean, it was traumatizing.
The
Is
build,
the best way to put it.
the build.
I had seen this film before, but I just like for some reason I didn't remember this part of it.
How?
And when it happened again, because I was a fucking kid when I saw it.
Yeah, I agree.
And it
I
doesn't
didn't
have the
remember
same
it either.
effect as when
Really?
you're an adult and you see a kid getting
Hadn't
shot.
seen this movie since I was young.
Yeah.
It's had the same effect on me as it had then.
Really the same?
Really?
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, they shot one of me.
Yeah. Oh my no. Like, oh my god, they shot a child in a movie. Yeah. You don't see that.
In the chest.
Like,
Yeah.
Point blank
maybe
range.
maybe I wasn't at that point in my
You were a jaded
my
child.
film life. Yeah.
Well,
As a
apparently-
child, I was just kind of like I'd seen The Exorcist by this point.
You don't
so I
shoot
was just
dogs.
like-
You don't shoot children.
Yeah, this
No,
scene,
that's definitely
this
true.
scene was supposed to give this film an X rating, right?
yeah.
And then they kind of tricked him into getting an R rating on the film.
Yeah, which was I read that too. I read that was a normal practice in the for exploitation films is that the cut that you sent to the MPAA, you would just cut out the really insane scenes of violence or sex or anything like that. They would review it, give you an R rating, and then you would just distribute out your version that has
Slap
all
it on
that
the
shit in
original.
it.
That's awesome.
Did they do that with this?
Yeah. John
Oh,
Carpenter,
okay.
the producer, told him, he's like, "Oh, just cut that scene out and send it back to him, and then we'll just release your version."
I wonder
No
if that
way.
still. Do you think that still works? You can't do
Probably
that
not.
anymore.
No.
You can't do that anymore.
No, because now everybody's got unrated director's cut.
yeah, right.
You can
That's
release
true.
not rated films into the marketplace easily.
But
No,
not into
yeah.
theaters.
Yes, you can. But
Yeah.
you not through a studio.
Well, I guess the reason why it wouldn't happen now is because the X rating doesn't really. They don't use it.
No, the X rating is.
They don't use.
Yeah.
They don't even use
No. Doesn't even
NC-17
exist?
that much
No.
anymore. So
No.
It's mostly unrated or not rated.
Yeah, that's true.
And this one was rated R.
it certainly was.
I want to talk about some personal experiences maybe you've had with this film, where you first saw it, what your first feelings were, what your feelings were this time. Maybe did they change?
Well, I know when I went to a police station one time, we were assaulted by a bunch of gangs, and I had to fight them off by myself.
So you
Okay.
got like flashbacks watching this, huh?
I had a little BTSD action, yeah, going on.
BTS.
BTS, a little
Yeah.
bit of BDSM action.
There was. Did I not mention?
That's why you were at the police station.
Yeah. Did I not mention they tied me up and had sex with me?
The police
I didn't
station's
mention that.
actually a bar downtown.
Where'd you first
Well,
see
the
it?
basement.
Where'd you first see it, Kyle?
I can't honestly remember, to tell you the truth. I'm sure I rented it from the video store. But it definitely, I know for a fact it came long after I saw a bulk of almost all of it. It was like, this is one of the last films of his I saw. Now, that was like 15 years ago,
Yeah.
so it's not like I just discovered this, but for some reason I saw all of his other films before it, just by happenstance, by my parents owning stuff or my brother.
I feel like that was kind of me too. You know how I found out about this movie? Was through the From Dusk Till Dawn box set.
How?
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
So I love Rodriguez's commentary, and he puts a lot of good stuff, special features on his DVDs.
Yeah, that's like a film school almost.
Yeah,
It's fantastic.
And his stuff came out. This was when I was like right after high school. They released the first 3 on DVD in a box set. But they were talking about that movie, and in that movie, one of the characters is wearing a Precinct 13 shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because I think Quentin Tarantino is a huge fan of this movie.
Nice.
I believe that.
If I'm not mistaken, I could be telling the story wrong. It's been a long time since I've seen
Yeah.
the special feature.
But Dusk Till Dawn's what basically told you about this.
Yeah, but then I was like, okay, so that influenced him. I was really into like Tarantino at the time, so now I got to get my hands on this movie, you know. And it's got I knew who John Carpenter was, you know what I mean, and I know his films, but I didn't know him like I know him now. As my own
You weren't
personal
like BFFs like you are
Yeah.
now.
But as my own personal JC, you know, like I know him now.
It's funny now that I think about it. I think I saw vampires before I saw.
I saw vampires before I saw this.
Yeah, dude, I saw all of his films
Wait,
before
I
this.
forget that you guys are like 90s kids. Like, I'm an 80s kid, so...
So you remember watching this in theaters, huh?
No,
Yeah, you were there?
no. I mean, that would be absurd. But no, I definitely remember...
You remember when police stations were invented?
I remember when it was touch dial. I remember the time when people were like, I think the phone lines are hacked. And I was like, yeah, that's a serious problem. Like, somebody cut the phone lines. That's a serious issue. No, I remember... It's one of those films... The Thing was one of these films, too, where I saw it very early on, you know, and I didn't know who the fuck John Carpenter was. I was a kid. I didn't know anything. And then years later, I was just like, oh, that film that you liked when you were like 8? Like, that was from this guy that also directed, you know, Ghost of Mars.
See, I had it so
Yeah.
so lucky having an older brother that was like.
You didn't have to do too much digging.
I didn't. He worked in a video store and it was like, okay, what else you got now? We'll watch this. Today.
Well, yeah, you had that teacher. I didn't have any. My parents were like not. My mom was into
Yeah.
horror, but she couldn't tell you who directed what from what.
Yeah.
My father wasn't a big film fan. My brother was a huge action fan. I could tell you like which Arnold films. He loved fucking, you know, First Blood and shit. But I didn't know like half of these things that I loved. That stuff that made an impression on me. Like I didn't know that fucking John Carpenter did Big Trouble in Little China for the longest time. I just knew that I fucking loved that film and it was on VHS and I watched it
Exactly.
until the
just
fucking reels
died.
went out.
Just died
Like I didn't
inside.
know who
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah, I mean, me too.
My mom only watched movies that were in black and white or set in the 1800s. Like that's
Good,
what I
good
had
thing you
going
got your
on.
time in the video store because you needed it.
Yeah, that was my awakening.
I feel like I knew about John Carpenter since I was younger because I was so intrigued by horror, and Halloween was always hailed as this, masterpiece of horror, and it was always, John Carpenter's Halloween. So I was very aware of that there was this director out there. But Assault on Precinct 13, I probably didn't see this movie. I probably did see it, bits of it when I was young, and then didn't actually sit down and digest it until I was 23, something like that.
What do you think of it? The first time I saw it, I just remember thinking like, this is awesome because they're just blowing away people. Like that's the first connection I remember having with this movie was like, first it was shooting the little girl. I was like, oh my God, they went that far. Because you don't
like
see
I said,
that.
I didn't even remember that until I saw it again.
Oh, I did. I remembered it because I was like, oh my God, you just don't see that. Like they went that far, and this is from the 70s. Like that was, and then the other
Little
thing,
did you know.
yeah, and the other thing, the other thing, I just remember the violence. I guess is the real thing that stuck out to me from when I was younger, and that's what I really liked about it. I was like, and that's what I thought in my head. I was like, oh, that's what these directors like about it was like the violence, very violent, and that's what they liked about it. But I don't think that was it
But
at
you
all.
You think about it.
Yeah. No.
I mean, going back to
my
that,
view has changed as I've gotten older.
To that scene, like, it's not very violent.
Which one?
The whole movie.
As far as because they can't.
You
afford
don't
it.
see a lot of like.
No, it's
exactly.
Not, it's not violent on screen, but it's violent. It's violent
in context.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say that because there was right at the beginning of the scene where they showed the cops gunning down the gang members going down that like fatal funnel thing.
Yeah,
that is just the frame reversed. It's the same guy shooting down, and then they reverse the frame and they shoot down from the other angle.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Which doesn't make any goddamn sense, actually. If you look at that hallway, there's only a window on the left side, so what's the guy
They're on the roof.
side
They're on the
shooting
roof.
at?
Right.
They're on the roof.
Yeah, but if there's a guy aiming at the right down at a hallway that only has a window on the left side, it doesn't make any sense. See?
But I understand it from a context. What I'm saying is
No,
that,
this is a podcast, not a visual thing, Kyle.
what I'm saying is that I understand it from the context of trying to create an image where it feels like you're trapped, because you take the frame, you flip it around, and it does look like two people are shooting from two different angles,
Yeah.
and that they're being assaulted.
On Precinct 13.
I was waiting for it.
That's very funny. There's a part of me, it had a psycho effect. You know what I mean? Where they didn't show any blood, they didn't really. I mean, there was.
Well, that's
blood.
a sign of that's a sign of great filmmaking.
No,
and low budget filmmaking.
Yeah, but using cinematography to elicit an impression versus showing a gratuitous attack. Go on.
He does this in Halloween.
Yeah.
I mean, Halloween barely has any blood in it.
Right. You
But
don't
that's
need
not
that.
what. Yeah, that's not what he's really trying. What he's really after is the gore factor.
Right.
Although he does use it when it's important. Again, shooting the little girl when you see that blood splat up.
Yeah, but you
on
know what?
her,
I'll be
it's
honest
not
with you,
that much, but
it doesn't, and it also looks like a paint gun.
it kind of
It
does.
is.
It doesn't look
I'm
real.
I'm pretty sure it is because squibs are expensive.
They're just shooting people with paint guns.
No, I'm pretty sure that.
I'm not challenging you.
Well, what I am saying is that it was effective regardless.
Yeah.
It was incredibly effective.
But I think that has everything to do with going back to the suspense that he built, because you in your mind saw it coming.
The little girl getting shot?
Yeah, you saw it.
All the violence
like
in general.
you see it coming, and your mind has already played out that scenario almost to instinctually protect you
like
from
this
it.
is the worst case scenario, and then
And
it
the worst
happens.
case scenario happens right when you think it's not going to happen.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
he just lets you take your guard down for a second, and then it's boom, he shoots her. But it's not gory. It's just shocking, which I think he uses very effectively in this film. Even one thing I wanted to talk about was how relentless that main shootout scene is. The very first one where they just start opening fire on every single angle in that place, and it just keeps going, and it just keeps going. Like he just gives it to you until you're almost like, holy Christ, how much ammo do these guys have out here?
Where did you see that before? Where was that influenced in maybe another John Carpenter film?
Oh, the fight
Where
scene.
did it come?
The fight scene.
The fight scene. I thought
Yeah,
I wrote that
exactly.
down. From
Fight
They
scene
Live.
in They Live. I agree. You do see, because that does go on for even when you
That's
think
not from Christine.
no.
Just joking.
Even
Joking.
even when you think that, because you're exactly correct, because even when you think that scene is over, there's one last boom and the paper flies up. One last one,
Yep.
like there's a beat where it's like, okay, everything's good.
Calm.
And then one last one goes up.
Yeah.
You know, because he does. Yeah, he does like to do that in a lot of his films. He does like to take like
It's
one.
fantastic though. It
thing
helps
and
create
stretch it out.
that great mood of just being trapped.
I think a lot of it had to do with the actors in this movie.
I want to talk about that where while we're on the subject of influences. Actually, there was something I actually noticed from Big Trouble in Little China that he does. There was that. How do I put it? A very tense scenario, followed by two people talking, and then a relatively innocuous comment that is actually played off like it's comedy. And it was always, anybody got a cigarette? Like he kept. Like, that happened a few times, and it always seemed to happen after, like, a really tense scenario. It was almost, like, less comedy as was, like, a breath of fresh air.
Right, exactly.
I want to say that actually is pulled straight from Rio Bravo.
It could be.
I'm almost positive, yeah.
But I noticed that he does it even in Big Trouble in Little China. There'll be, like, a big fight scene and stuff like that, and then Jack Burton will be like, so anybody... Like blah 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 blah. Like
it's like the cap
on the reflexes.
It's the cap on the scene almost.
Yeah,
It's like it leaves you on a high note a little bit.
Like, oh, okay, we can all relax.
Well, yeah, because
now.
I think it also lets the character break the tension of whatever scene. Like, if it was an extremely intense scene.
Cody, question.
Yeah,
What
go
is
ahead.
what is your favorite character in the film?
I would have to say Lee.
Okay.
Laura Zimmer.
Why?
I love her character in this because number one, my favorite type of characters in movies is just the strong female character. If you look up my Netflix, that's in my queue actually all the time of like
strong
it's a category.
Yeah, no, it is. It is a category that is in my feed all the time. I think she shows hints of feminism
or femininity
or strong femininity portrayed upon film.
Yeah, she's always portrayed as an equal.
She's not someone that they don't respect.
Exactly.
They respect her immediately.
And she's tough as
equal
hell.
And she's a badass.
She's tough as hell.
I believe this character was directly influenced from what was
no, she plays she's actually named after a character.
But I thought that that was the complete influence on this character was a woman who had was very feminine, but also a tough, badass chick that could hold
another
her own.
character from a Western.
I really do love her character in this. I love the fact she gets fucking shot in the arm and just stands there like a boss.
And she's just staring like, you just fucking shot me?
I kind of took, you know how I kind of took that scene though?
Well, how'd you take it?
Almost not so much
shock?
that but that was the trigger.
Yeah, that was the breaking point of like
she got shot and she was like, holy shit, I'm
this
dead.
is real.
I'm dead, right?
And then the guy ran towards her, and she's just like, "Oh shit!" And she snapped back
she
into
sprung
it.
to action. Like there was this weird beat right when she gets shot, and then you realize she's not dead, and then all of a sudden she just turns into a badass for the rest of the fucking film.
And that's kind of a theme in Carpenter movies too, where Carpenter does have strong females.
Oh yeah,
I loved Bishop though. I thought Bishop was a really likable character.
Fantastic character.
I know, he was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
And honestly, the way that Bishop and Napoleon sort of team up, helping each other survive, I don't know why. Their dynamic together just felt so awesome.
Like, I get the zombie influence, but also if you're somewhat basing this off of Night of the Living Dead, it's also just a stark contrast in the fact that they didn't get along in the house. Like, that was the monsters in Night of the Living Dead. And this one, it's the opposite, where it's like, no, I am going to listen, and we are in this together.
Well, there's that absolutely fantastic scene when between Napoleon and Bishop. I absolutely love this scene. It's when they first meet, and Napoleon pulls the same old, "Got a smoke?" And Bishop's response is, "No, sorry." And you see it in Napoleon's face. He perks up. He's almost like, "Oh, no one's ever actually addressed me and been nice about it." And he's like, "If you find one, let me know." He's like, "I definitely will." And he just looks. He has this look on his face like, "I like this guy. I trust this fucking guy."
All right, I'm gonna be the bad guy here. I'm gonna say that I thought that Bishop was a really weak performance.
Why?
I should say Austin Stoker was a really weak performance.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
As Bishop.
No, not necessarily as the character, as much as there was a lot of weird things that I kept catching up on that were really weird acting choices.
Such as?
He consistently laughs in very awkward moments, like when Wells is shot in the back of the head after he tries to hotwire that car. his reaction is to laugh.
I have a reason for that. He's like freaking out inside,
he
and he
just
kind of loses
it's
it for a
it's the
second.
second time he does it.
When he gets
though.
shot in the car, right?
It's the second time. Yeah, it's the second time he does it. I think the first time is when I think when the body goes missing. He's like, ha 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 ha, and he laughs.
Yeah, because that's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's a reaction to being terrified.
It's a very weird, panicky thing, and it seemed like a crutch in terms of acting. The other thing I've noticed too is his use of his hands. There's a few times where he flails his hands about as if he doesn't know what he's doing.
He's Ricky Bobby.
Yeah, no. Actually, that's actually a pretty accurate description. It's a common thing for theater actors to do, and like they just like this is their first play. Like I don't know what to do with my hands, so I guess I'm gonna use them to like elaborate the conversation.
That's interesting. I didn't
noticed
notice
it a
that.
lot,
Yeah.
and it kind of bothered me. It almost seemed like maybe this might have been his first role as a professional actor, or it might be his first role.
I think he was doing TV commercials prior to this.
I mean, that could be a thing. That
he
might have
was
been
doing
a
TV
thing.
commercials, and then the actor of Napoleon was John Carpenter's next door neighbor.
He was fantastic, by the way.
Loved
Napoleon,
him.
I thought was fantastic.
Napoleon is not this. I was gonna say is probably my least favorite.
He was my
I agree.
favorite character of the entire film.
I agree. He's probably my least favorite, which isn't saying much because all of the characters are fucking awesome. But the thing I didn't like about
I don't like his delivery.
the thing I like about Napoleon is also the thing I don't like about him. The thing I like about him is that he is like the blueprint for like Snake Plissken and there's a couple other kind of strong anti-heroes that pop up in John Carpenter's career. The thing I didn't like about him in this one is just that the character wasn't fully fleshed out enough, and John Carpenter had to work on that persona to really flesh it out and give it his own kind of
He was pretty
personality.
simple. He was a pretty simple character.
Do you think it was a trick that he would like purposely not tell anybody how he got his name?
no, that's a common John Carpenterism.
No. I think so. Speaking from the character, I think he realizes that he has a lot of power in like the mystery of him as a criminal, as the criminal Napoleon. So like, why fucking give that shit away?
I have a question, Kyle. Maybe you can answer it. So Napoleon says to Bishop after Starker dies, he says, "Oh, I never got to tell him something that I wanted to tell him." What was that? I didn't catch.
You didn't catch that? Oh, it's where did he get the name Napoleon?
Oh, okay, gotcha. I missed that was the question at the beginning. So, I loved that Julie was in this movie, or the actor Nancy Keys, I think, or what is it? Is that how you say it? Sorry.
Sure.
Because she's in Halloween. That makes me happy that John Carpenter brings these people back to play other characters.
Yeah, this whole crew was like his most of this crew was his film crew, his film school crew.
She had to go
from Dark Star. You don't like her?
No,
she's just a hysterical one.
Yeah.
Hey, this is regular vanilla. I want a vanilla twist.
All right, guys, we're back, and we are talking about Assault on Precinct 13. I want to get into some of the technical aspects of it, some sound, cinematography, writing, just a little bit of the music.
It's not that important.
Yeah, music's not very significant in a John Carpenter movie.
Yeah, what did he ever do with music?
Can I tell you something? Was it so when I remember when I first saw this movie, right? And I heard this song, it was instantly became my favorite John Carpenter theme of all time. Just instantly. Was it like that for anybody else?
Yes, I love it. There was a point where I was like, it's getting a little old now. Like I keep hearing
Yeah,
it.
can I just say something?
Oh,
I hated to say
wrong.
this about him a little bit, but I was kind of like 3 fucking chords.
No, I love. Don't get me wrong.
chords.
I do like it. Like
Yeah.
I do like the
Yeah.
theme, and it fits the film. And I would say the whole score to this film, all the music is great for it.
Even though he only did like 5 tracks for this film and they repeat, what I appreciate about it is his style comes through, and his style his musical style is totally established in this.
Now crap all over the cinematography, Chris.
No, who's gonna shit on the cinematography? All
You.
John Carpenter's movies are shot well.
Yeah,
Who's?
John Carpenter,
Oh, there.
He's a copper.
John Copperfield. You don't like
John
that
Copperfield.
magician?
Copperfield. Yeah.
No,
He's a magician with the camera.
it's weird because I thought the opening scene of this movie, the camera work was a little like loose.
His
Handheld.
It was
Yeah.
handheld. It was interesting.
Which is a little loose for him, right? He's not usually.
Yeah, I can't think. I mean,
Felt very
he
Prince of
definitely
Darkness.
uses
Yeah, a little bit.
He definitely uses some handheld later on, but I'm sure
But
with the Steadicam,
was-
this felt very.
Yeah.
You're in the gang with them.
Yeah, I agree.
So-
You get that feeling in the very, and then he kind of goes into his standard
Yeah.
after that.
Nice static shots.
But I
nice
think that's-
pans.
But that's awesome because it sets up the different mood for each the characters, right?
Yeah.
Where it's more like loose, lawless with the gang, and then when you're with the cops,
Yeah,
it's pretty
absolutely.
not standard, but it's more toned down.
Mike wants to take a shit on this
ahead.
conversation.
No, I wasn't gonna take a shit on it. I think the cinematography is great, especially with what he was limited to. Like we already discussed it earlier when he uses the same shot over and over and over again. That like all those 30 gang members like moving in on the precinct.
Mhm.
Like I feel like that shot was used a few times, if not used at different angles, or not reverse. Like,
Where they're
some
looking
way.
out the window and they see him kind of scattering around.
Yeah, but that's done a few times where it's like, where are they at? And then it's like, no, all you see is that street. And then all of a sudden, oh, there they are. And then all of a sudden, there's 30 of them.
Yeah.
You know, but they do the same thing. Like again, the cops. It's just a reversal of the same frame.
Yeah.
That's all they do.
Yeah.
I like
It's smart.
I like stuff like that. I like the using cinematography in clever ways to give an impression versus necessarily doing something fancy with all the money that you have.
Well, he didn't have very much money because
Absolutely
Yeah,
not.
no.
because out of
Clearly.
that out of that $100,000 budget, I know they spent pretty much the bulk of it on the processing. They got the best processing possible for the film.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the sound, they got the best possible like sound design,
Well, he spent
editing,
No, I
all
feel-
that
money
stuff.
well spent.
No,
think.
I
You
agree
spent
with
it on
that.
two most important fucking
Yeah,
things:
pretty
the
much.
picture and the sound.
That's one thing you could say about this film. It is goddamn crystal clear.
It is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful for the
For a
budget they
time?
had, and the time and everything. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Is this the first time he shot on? Because didn't he continue to shoot on whatever camera that
This
he
is
used
he
for
used
this?
a Panavision.
Yeah,
of this.
Panavision, and he like raves about how it was like it's the best look with the
It's got the
widescreen
best
lens.
cinematic aspect ratio, he
Yeah.
says. But yeah, no, it looks great. And yeah, I think this is pretty much like his fucking go-to camera.
Yeah,
And not saying much on this, but I think the weakest thing that is maybe a technical aspect in this film might be the writing.
I had no problem with it.
No, I think the first half is a solid half of the film, but the second half is just turns into an action scene.
The ending is weird. It just ends.
It ends with him walking out.
Yeah, I know,
Together.
but it just ends. There's no finality as to whether or not the gang was finally defeated and they were never
No.
terrorize the streets ever again.
No, this was just one
or-
incident, one night.
How could they though? I mean, yeah, I mean, I feel like that would almost open up a can of worms for more film, or again, like probably budgetary constraints.
No, it's just that at the beginning of the film they make such a attempt to try to build this idea, this world of, you know, this is a gang and they've been terrorizing people and they stole a bunch of assault weapons and then all of a sudden it comes down to this one little precinct. It's almost like it starts broad and then it really funnels in to a pinpoint and then it just ends with just like, so we survived this.
But that's kind of
you
what
know?
that's what I'm kind of saying with the first half versus the second half of the film, right? It does open up broad and then it funnels quickly down right into this. What like I think the second
an
half of the
isolated
film.
event.
Well, and I also think it's just the second half of the film. It's just a lot of action rather than character development. Like we got to get out of here, but no one's really like.
Was that a problem for you? Because I mean,
Not really. In
I
the
feel like
context
I
of the
got
movie.
because I feel like I got to know all the characters just enough, and then I got to know a little bit more about like Napoleon's and Lee's like relationship and their kind of weird thing, their personalities together while the action was going on, like during the small breaks when the precinct wasn't being attacked. Like you got little bits in there, but I felt like up at that point, I got to care enough about these characters to see them through it.
Did you understand enough of the villain's motivations?
I don't care.
Really? Did you not want to know why ugly Michael Bean wanted to kill little girls? Or why
why
Che Guevara decided to take his career
I'm
to
so glad you said
California.
You brought Che up. No, Mike, we've had this conversation before. I think I've made it very clear that like when it comes to writing like a bad guy or some kind of the enemy or something. Like I feel like I'm a big supporter of less is more. If I don't know why he's killing a kid, it makes it all the more fucked up. If he had like some kind of purpose and reason, like you've humanized the character to a point where that I don't think he's as terrifying.
Yes and no. I feel
Mostly
like
no.
No. I feel like it totally depends on the type of film. You don't want always on like
this type of film. You don't need that kind of exposition.
But
I agree.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Positive.
Like 100% sure.
I'm positive. I would not want to change.
I feel like shooting a little girl does require just a bit. If you're going to establish these people as human beings, not monsters,
we're not establishing
from
them as
the
human
underworld.
beings. We're establishing them as monsters. They're
That's what
monsters.
They are the
No,
monsters.
I agree.
And
Yeah, but they're framed in the context that they are just human beings. They die with bullets. They're just people.
They're monsters. They
And not only that,
kill at
hold on.
random.
And not only that, not only just monsters, but youthful monsters. They're a young gang.
but that's
They're a
but
bunch of
it's-
teenagers.
That's the scary thing, right? That they can look just like you. They can be just like you. But
And they can walk right up to you and shoot you in the chest and not care and not have to have a reason whatsoever. And it creates this it creates this bigger sense of dread that you got to kind of experience with the ice cream man, that he's basically living in this fucking neighborhood that at any moment this gang could walk up and pop me and I'm done and
you don't
no
know
reason whatsoever.
And you don't know who it is, and which plays into the thing.
I want to say this even goes into vampires, because I was going to talk about vampires as being this thing. I guess what bothered me the most about it was that there were so many of them without an excuse. You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
I love that part.
with vampires, you can explain it as like, look, if you get bitten, you become a vampire, there's a hunger that guides you, and then you're just going to fucking do horrible things, like maybe kill a little girl.
I
But
don't know.
in this, it kind of felt like, what's the purpose of being in this gang? Why are they doing this particular?
I love the fact that he doesn't explain it, because here you are trying to figure it out and it's fucking sticking with you.
No, I understand what he was trying to do and what he was trying to elicit in my emotions, and I want to give him all the credit for actually succeeding in that in spades.
But you hate him for it as well.
No, I'm just, there was a part of it where I don't know that I would, how do I put this? I don't know that I would buy it in a modern day movie.
Oh, it happened. They remade it.
They didn't shoot a girl in the remake.
No, but
I feel like they did a lot of
hold
things.
Hold on. Let me bring
less.
this back into the precinct here, because I feel like sort of what he wanted you to do is, I mean, the monsters are outside, yes, but you also technically have monsters inside as well. But I never felt like they were monsters.
No.
I never was threatened by Napoleon, really. I always kind of liked him from the beginning.
But
I
he's
was
not
never,
the monster.
But
He is, because he's in prison for killing people.
So hold on, though. Time out. That's where I'm saying the character development for me doesn't go far enough, right? Because we don't have any conflict inside. Everybody's on the same team.
Right.
So there's really, the threat is really just on what's on the outside.
Uh-huh.
So that's where I felt like it's a little bit weak. And that's me nitpicking. That's nitpicking. I'm not saying that at any means.
I don't
the
even
script
think
is
it's
terrible.
weak. I mean, I don't think it's weak, because they did bring you into these characters' worlds and made you care about the people that were inside the precinct. And there was those moments where people got tense. They wanted to throw, Lawson out, and then the other prisoner pulls the gun on Lee, basically. But it never really felt that threatening, which was the thing. Like, I feel like maybe he could have developed it a little bit more there, but at the same time, I was excited that they were all banding together to battle this supposedly unstoppable
because they really didn't have
force.
time to really
No.
honestly build more character, because they've got this fucking gang attacking
The first
them.
half is kind of a little bit of a social commentary on how prisoners and cops and gangs and all this stuff kind of treat each other. It's kind of you get a little bit of commentary with that. You do with the warden and how he treats
The prisoners like animals almost.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is a common theme in the anti-hero established character. The idea of, for instance, from Dusk Till Dawn, the Gecko brothers are fucking murderous assholes.
Yes.
But they're not as bad as vampires. And because of that, they will team up with a preacher and they will kill those vampires.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There is a common theme in films where you establish an asshole, but he teams up with the good guys, realizing this is a way bigger threat, and even I can't go that far.
I think that's always based on, and I think that's always based on, especially with Napoleon, is that the asshole, the anti-hero, all he really cares about is like, I want to live. That's it. I'm going to survive.
much.
So whoever
Yeah.
I need to align with to make it out of this, fine. I will pretend to care about you for the next 3 hours until we're done with this, but I'm just living through this. And that's
But
what
he
an
might
anti-hero.
he might also want to fuck Lee, and he might also want to become friends at the end.
I love that scene where Bishop tosses the shotgun to Napoleon for the first time.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
And he
Badass
just
as
takes
fuck.
care of business.
Just boom, boom, boom.
And then he looks back and Bishop's still got he's got his hand out like he's bracing, like he doesn't know what Napoleon's gonna do.
Yeah.
No,
And-
he's got his hand out because he threw it to him, and he's shocked at how he just grabbed the gun and blew away 3 dudes in like.
I thought of it more as a
I
defense.
thought of more of a defense as well. He's like,
Yeah, me
No.
too.
because they lock eyes and they hold for a minute because like Bishop's like, what the fuck are you gonna do?
You've
with
got a
that?
gun, yeah.
You've got a gun now, and I'm the cop. Like,
No,
what are you
that's
gonna do?
no, because that was an oh fuck moment. That was like I just threw it to the baddest dude I could throw it to.
Now that I think about this, now that you guys have brought it up, I guess this is the part that bothered me about the film, the thing that I wish it would have been established. So you got criminals outside trying to attack this precinct, and you got criminals inside that he just gave guns to. And then you have this scene where he blows off these guys' fucking heads off with his shotgun, and then he holds his hand out like, well, I don't know what you're going to do. I kind of wish there had been like maybe 10, 15 minutes that they had delved into this, where they had asked the question, you guys are criminals and these guys outside are criminals. Why not just say, you want these cops inside? Fuck yeah, we got guns now. We will sacrifice these people. Why do they say in their mind, you know what? We're monsters, but we're not those kind of monsters.
Well, that's because the other prisoner knows of the gang and he knows of what they're capable of, and the fact that they won't care if the prisoner walks out and says, "Have at it," like they'll just still shoot the prisoner.
Is that ever really like solidified in the
It's
script?
established by
Wells.
by Wells. He says specifically, like, this gang will never stop. Like, you don't make friends with them. You don't do anything.
So
like
they know
that.
who these guys
They
are.
fucking
Yeah,
know
the
who they
Cholas,
are.
right? The Cholas.
But
The
also
Cholas?
they were being attacked so viciously by gunfire that you're not really going to be like, we'll just throw the cops out. That'll fix it all. I mean, obviously the people outside don't give a fuck who's
I'm just
inside.
wondering why criminals wouldn't take. Why is it the other girl that says we should just throw this guy out? Why wouldn't it be the criminal that said
Because
I'm a coward? Like, yeah, that's why I'm in fucking jail. Just throw this
Because he
fucking guy
wasn't.
out and maybe
That-
I can
that
make
was-
a deal.
That was one thing that was
what
established.
did he
too.
say at the very end? He's like, "Well, how come you didn't run for it?" And he says 2 things: you don't leave a man behind who can't run with you,
and the other one is actually pussy.
yeah, basically. So they've established that even though Napoleon is
I don't believe
a criminal and a murderer, he also has like a code.
He definitely has a code.
I'm in
so
love.
that's why
and that's why
he never would have
that's
done
why
it.
you love the character.
And that's why I wouldn't want them to kind of dive into this kind of thought that you had, because it's like, I already know it. I already know why he's not doing it. You can tell by his actions and his personality.
What did you guys think of the Wells' whole speech about having bad luck?
Dude, he's awesome.
But I mean, like
That
how
was
d-
pretty fucking.
How did you attribute that? Like, he's like, that's how I got into jail because I have bad luck. I'm not doing rock, paper, scissors or flipping a coin because I have bad luck. So we're going to do this potato game, which I had never seen.
I did not understand that game.
I
did
didn't
not
either.
understand how that worked.
And then he ends up going out, and getting killed. And what do you think John Carpenter was trying to say about his character and just having bad luck?
Nothing.
He just wanted.
Nothing.
Honestly, no. I think
He's a death.
his character. Yep, his character was there as cannon fodder, because if anyone was going to be against maybe and wanting to throw the cops out and be
turn on somebody.
and turn on and be
Yeah.
like I'm one of them,
Yeah.
would be him.
Yeah. Plus he's also really good in establishing the fact that the cop, like, it just re-solidifies the fact that there's no way out. Like,
yeah,
he's booking it down this fucking road, and he fucking gets stuck and gets shot, basically. And it's like, so
they're
no matter
everywhere.
what, you
They're like
can't
ants.
fucking get away from these guys.
If anything, his interaction with Napoleon is the only time that we actually establish like where their allegiances lie, because he says, like, what's stopping you? Like, you're gonna call the fucking cops before you go over the goddamn border, right?
Yeah.
He's like, why would I do that? And like, there was like, you're probably gonna do it because you're not a monster. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I had bad luck all my life. Now, how do you think I ended up in here?
Maybe it'll change.
It might. If we don't flip a coin. Let's do something else.
What?
Potatoes.
Okay.
1 play, 2 play, 3 play, 4, 5 play, 6 play, 7 play more, 8 play, 9 play, 10 play, 11. Kiss my ass and go to heaven. Y-O-U spell you. I told you I'd lose. God damn it, we're gonna do it again.
All right, Kyle, let's do it. What do you want to rate this mammer jammer?
I think we're gonna do Bowls of Blood.
Bowls of blood.
Yes.
Yeah. Bowls of Blood.
That's how we started this podcast. A lot of people don't know that. We
actually blood oath.
cut ourselves, and
Now I'm stuck in it.
And I wrote it on a sheet. I wrote on a sheet from my bedroom in our blood podcast.
You got a bloody sheet hanging up in your bedroom?
Yeah.
It smells pretty bad in there too.
Oh my, it's a very, very, what is it? What? Irony.
Irony?
It's very iron.
It's very metallic.
Irony.
Irony.
You know, it smells like that.
That's what we're rating
Blood's
it.
full of iron.
All right.
Bowls of irony.
That's what you call it. Bowls of irony.
All right, let's start with Mike first.
I am going to give this 4 bowls of blood. As a fundamental introduction to John Carpenter films, I think it's a fantastic one. It deals with a lot of the stuff that he deals with in a lot of other films. Overwhelming conflict, characterization, and stuff like that. Yeah, there were some parts in the plot that I had a little bit to deal with. I guess why I'm not giving it a 5. You know, and now that I'm thinking about it, it's actually strange that I like this film more than I like.
Don't say Goes to Mars.
Yeah, no, never. But definitely, this is a surprise film of mine. That I guess I would give The Thing a 5 if we ever.
Well, we're definitely going to do The Thing. So
Yeah.
don't give that rating.
I don't
want
to give that rating away, but obviously that's one of his most popular films. It's a surprise film that I like this film so much. If that's strange to say that because it's his first film, but
well, first big budget.
I gave Big Trouble in Little China a 5. So
rightfully so.
Right? No, definitely rightfully so. But I guess this one is a little. Yeah, it's definitely a 4. I think it's a fantastic film, and if anybody is interested in trying to introduce themselves, if you're not familiar with John Carpenter, I would start with this one. It's a great place to start.
I'll go next. Let me tell you why it's 4. Because I agree with you.
Okay.
It's a 4 because it's not a complete idea yet, right? You named other films off that Carpenter's done that definitely inspired this film that are better films. Than this, and that's okay. This is like his second. This is his second film, his first bigger budget film for him. You know, at the time,
it's first studio film.
Yeah, exactly.
It's his biggest budget film that he fucking
they
knows.
made. Yeah,
kind of
at the time, and he kills it for pretty much first time out of the park. Like that's pretty impressive. Is it a 5 film? No, it's not. There are some weak points to it, but it's like that's fucking nitpicking, dude. This movie's fun. That's what I think he captures in John Carpenter is his fun side. Even with his violence and stuff like that, there's the characters are somewhat fun and admirable because of their moral code. So I think you do see hints of that in his later films. I don't know if this is a good introduction to John Carpenter. I would disagree with that. Just in the fact that I think you start him off with something that's like The Thing with John Carpenter.
You start with the big ones.
You start with a big one,
and then you work your way down.
You show him something like this afterwards, so that they can kind of respect where he came from. 4 for me, Chris.
I agree. I would not start on this film if you're interested in John Carpenter films. I would go with something more like a Halloween or The Thing or Big Trouble in Little China, even.
Yeah.
But once you get into his world, you can totally appreciate Assault on Precinct 13. It's really great beginning for a great director. And yeah, at the time when it came out, I'm sure this movie was just awesome to see on the big screen. It's not completely perfect, but overall, the story moves along really fast. I really liked all the characters in the film. I didn't need to know who the monsters were. I think we got enough of that in the beginning. And then they were just ruthless killers that these guys, these people in this building had to battle themselves against. And I love the dynamic between the prisoners and basically the police. The way he put all that together was awesome. I would definitely recommend watching this film. I'm going to give it a 3.5 because I gave They Live a 3.5, and I don't like it better than They Live, but I also don't like it worse. I think it's for me personally, like they're right neck and neck. So 3.5 for Assault on Precinct 13. Bowls of Blood.
All right. Last but not least, Kyle. How many bowls of blood?
I'm going to give it 4 bowls of blood. I mean, there's you and all of you have actually said plenty. I don't know what else I could say, but yeah, I think it's fantastic to look at. I think it's inspiring, honestly, to see a young filmmaker who finally gets his chance to do the studio film based on a script that he wrote in, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks. I think it was pretty fast. He kicked this thing out, and he was going into production. I would probably disagree as well in terms of this being... I would agree and disagree in terms of telling somebody to watch this first. I would agree in the fact that he establishes so many characters and shots and mood and all the stuff that you'll get to kind of see as you progress through his career, constantly popping up in his films. But at the same time, it's not as probably not as approachable as, say, A Thing or as maybe They Live or Big Trouble in Little China is. But yeah, I think it's a great film, and soundtrack is wonderful, and I got nothing else to say. But yeah,
It's
4.
It's no Invisible Man.
The memoir?
Jesus.
Yeah.
The memoir.
Yeah.
It's no Star, man.
You know what I'm saying? There you guys have it. That's our show for this week. Do me a favor. When you download this show, don't anymore. Just subscribe. And you don't have to.
Yeah, you don't have to bother with
You
all
don't
that
have to bother.
drama.
It just
Like,
automatically...
should I listen to the show? Should I not listen to the show? It's
It
right
automatically downloads on Thursday. You can go, yeah, I want to listen to that one, or no, save it for later. You don't even have to download it. So just go ahead and subscribe. Also, check us out on our social media. You can check us out on Instagram at cultfilm_review. You can also follow us at that on Twitter. That didn't make sense, but you can follow us at cultfilm_review on Twitter. You can also follow us on Facebook. You can follow Kyle at...
You can follow me at cultfilm_Kyle on Instagram and Twitter.
You can follow Chris at...
Cultfilm_Chris on Instagram.
And you can follow Mike
at Mike Salustio on Twitter.
And you can follow me at Cultfilm Cody on Instagram. You can also follow me on VHS Collect on Instagram, doing some stuff on there. All right, guys, just remember, if we're going to join a cult, make sure they watch good movies.
Did you say our website?
No, he did not. Definitely not.